And welcome to Noble Voices, the podcast spotlighting the storytellers, creators, and unsung heroes who are shaping culture with integrity, empathy, and purpose. I'm your host, Josh Rhett Noble, actor, advocate, occasional outlaw in a video game, and most importantly, someone who believes that noble work deserves to be heard. And for our very first guest, I am beyond honored to welcome a true visionary, a voice for legacy and innovation alike, and a dear friend, Santino DeAngelo. A playwright, composer, lyricist, and Tony Award-nominated Broadway producer. Santino's work has been described by the New York Times as having a gift for engaging melodies, from the acclaimed Another Happy Ending, which I was lucky enough to be a part of during its early stages, to Broadway's New York, New York, and now the upcoming Kiss of the Spider-Woman film with Jennifer Lopez. Santino continues to create bold, beautiful work that honors where we've been and where we're going. As executive director of the Terrence McNally Foundation, he's preserving and propelling the legacy of a giant in American theater, uplifting early career playwrights and LGBTQ+ voices along the way. Simply put, Santino is the kind of artist and advocate this show was made to celebrate. And just in time, he's here to talk about the upcoming Another Happy Ending reunion at 54 Below, a project that means so much to both of us. Santino, welcome to Noble Voices.
Thank you for having me, my friend. It is nice to be here.
It's wonderful to have you. I've been talking about having you on the show as soon as I thought about doing this podcast. So I appreciate you taking time with your insanely busy schedule to join us today.
I just hope I can deliver. That's my dream.
I'm pretty sure you can. So
a lot of pressure, first interviewee, you know?
Listen, like I said, I think that what you're doing is absolutely perfect for this podcast. And also I care about you deeply as a friend. So I want to start off the bat talking about legacy and purpose. So you've worn many, many creative hats, from playwright, lyricist, producer, but your work with the Terrence McNally Foundation feels especially personal. What does it mean to you to carry forward his legacy?
You know, this was such an unexpected part. You know, I went to playwriting school. I went to playwriting grad school. I am a writer in my soul, and I came to work for Terrence McNally and to learn from him. And, I came in January of 2020, and in March of 2020, COVID sadly came, and Terrence was one of the first people who passed from COVID. So in a weird way, I went on a journey I never expected to go on, to be the executive director of the Terrence McNally Foundation, to get to work so closely with Terrence's wonderful spouse, Tom Curtihy, the Broadway producer, who is also sits on the board. And I work for him in my capacity as a representative of Terrence, and that is a part of my job too. So it's, you never know where your life is going to take you. But the most beautiful thing about this journey that I've been on is it's given me an incredible opportunity to help other playwrights and to really deepen my own vocation to playwriting in a really, really different way. I will be honest, and when the world was changing in 2020, I wasn't sure what I was going to do or what it meant to my playwriting to take on this responsibility of forwarding Terrence's legacy. And I called my teacher, Lynn Nottage, who was a professor at Columbia, and kind of shared my concerns. And she said to me, and I'll never forget it, but she personally helps and supports the Lorraine Hansberry estate. And she said, so taking care of your elders can be a part of your vocation as a writer. And I've never lost that sense of what this means to me in a really personal way. And so I carry that into the work that I do every day, and I have a great time. So, sorry, long answer, but
no, I love that. And I love that you mentioned caregiving. Basically, it's taking over, my personal story about being a caregiver to both of my late parents. And there really is nothing like helping someone during that time period. It's a bond that you never forget. And if you could do it with artistic ability, it's a beautiful thing. And that's what I feel that we both love. And I think that's a beautiful story.
And we live in a time where we need it. This is a time that needs the world is breaking in all sorts of different ways. And if you can be a part of the building, I feel it's really incumbent upon you. It's a hard call not to answer.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, that's what I mentioned. Why this podcast happened was I felt like I wanted to show these voices, these noble voices that are making differences, and to let people see the empathy in what we do as artists, as playwrights, as composers, as everything, that it's layered, it's multi-layered, and a lot of it is bringing joy to other people. That's why I do what I do. And I know that's part of why you do what you do. And speaking of empathy, I know that Terrence was fearless as a voice for empathy and truth and storytelling. And what did he teach you as an artist, but maybe more importantly, as a human?
I feel Terrence teaches me every day to love. That's the most important thing. If there was Terrence wrote so many different, he wrote musicals and operas and plays and different kinds of plays. He's written farces and he's written, very serious dramas. And ultimately the thing that connects all of them is this desire for connection with others and the primacy of love. And, it's so, hippy dippy in a way to just feel like all you need is love, because it's not all that we need, but it is the engine that is sputtering right now in our world, and figuring out what it means to love people you don't agree with, to exist in a world where, that is changing, and to figure out how you can have make space for the fear that other people are experiencing, and that is empathy. Just how are we putting ourselves in other people's shoes? We live in a time right now where if we put ourselves in the shoes of the people just outside the store, we could be living very different lives. And it's hard to say, actually, the real power is still in love.
Mm-hmm.
But time has a weird way of being on love's side.
Right. And I mean, I think that's the faith that I have to keep as an artist, as a human being, is that there's a pendulum, and it has to come back to love. It has to come back to empathy. And if you're not functioning from that vibration, not talk about hippy dippy, but seriously, then there's something wrong, And I think that at some point it's got to come back. And that's why it's so important to have voices like yours to show that empathy is not a bad word. It's not a bad thing. It's a beautiful thing. And it's a necessity in our lives as people, as humans, as artists, and everything. So I appreciate you stating that.
I was going to say, preach. I'm with you.
I mean, it is the truth. So as you said, times are shifting. We're living in an interesting time right now. So in the time where the world and the arts are shifting and reshaping, how do you define noble storytelling as what makes a voice worth lifting up today for you?
It's one of the coolest parts of my job that I get to be in the space to watch other writers reach this inflection point where they break. One of the programs that we offer at the Terrence McNally Foundation is this partnership with Rattlestick, with this Terrence McNally New Works Incubator. And every year we whittle it down from 500 submissions of new plays, new play submissions from emerging playwrights, to 3. And those people get professional mentorship, a cash stipend, a 29-hour workshop of their work, and a public presentation of it. And so even though as the director of the foundation, I'm not often specifically picking the people who are receiving these opportunities, what I'm doing is putting together the panel of writers and playwrights who come together and pick their own. I feel strongly that, that playwriting is the craft that is handed down from person to person, and that the people, if there are going to be gatekeepers in this community, it should be the playwrights of this community. So we always have a really wonderful batch of playwrights that's in years past have included Paula Vogel and David Henry Wong, and playwrights at the top of their craft who come together and find these new voices. And what drives those choices changes from what's happening in the world from year to year. This is our third year doing it, so I've had 3 chances to see it now. But the nobleness, I think it is a person who truly has not had a chance to be heard yet. When you read something or you encounter a voice and you don't know how it's going to ricochet in the room, that is a really exciting place to be. I think when you read a lot of submissions, you really see the macro patterns of what's happening in our culture, and like what everybody was interested in this year and what everybody's responding to from last year in their plays from this year. But like, for a truly unique voice to stand out, somebody who's really marching to the beat of their own drum. And that's not to say that it's not coherent, because it's still like, incoherency is not uniqueness. It is just incoherency. You need with that special combination. I mean, RuPaul says it the best: charisma, uniqueness, nerve, talent. Like those qualities are present in a writing sample if it's meant to be there, or if it's worth more deeply investigating. And then so yeah, it's like, how can you tell your truth in the strongest way possible that reaches the maximum number of other people, not just tells your truth on an island to yourself and the 5 people who get you,
Right.
but who can tell their truth in a way, who can be O positive blood, like that unique thing, that the universal donor that can give to everybody, but is unique unto itself. It's that intangible quality that I think we're on the hunt for.
I love that. Yeah, I love that. How do you navigate the responsibility of representation? And I think this is something that's important, very important right now for a lot of us. And what stories do you feel still need to be told?
That's a really interesting question. And it's a question that chased Terrence through his life quite a bit. There are people who define Terrence as a gay playwright because he truly, in many ways, was the chronicler of the age generation. He was a voice of his generation and put the first gay characters on Broadway ever in 1964 and Things That Go Bump in the Night. He put the first gay marriage on stage in Mothers and Sons. Like he was such a trailblazer, but with all of that, he very often resisted the moniker of a gay playwright. He did not, in his day, he was a playwright, and bristled at the idea, like you don't describe his peers as straight playwrights.
Right.
And so, we live in a moment right now where it is incumbent upon us to tell our truth in a way where we are authentically represent, like that. The authentic representation is really important right now, and great. And of course, I understand, but to also know that it is still about the things that make us all the same, not just the stuff that makes us different. It's what we were kind of just talking about, honestly. So this job has asked me to be more forwardly queer in my own life in a way that has been really affirming and wonderful, and an unlooked for joy in getting to just be who I am. And that is, has been really special. But at the same time, I'm most proud of being a gay person that non-gay people can also connect to.
It's always a fight. That's what it's always a fight. And so that's why I think it's important that these voices are heard, that those stories are told, so that they're not silenced, into a place where, it can be very scary in a lot of places right now. So I think that's why it's important that these voices are heard. We talked about artists, and obviously in the foundation, how, you have helped with your team. Are there any emerging playwrights or projects that give you hope right now?
Oh, yes. There is a playwright named Jake Brash who is so spectacular as a playwright. I was out in Los Angeles and I saw his play, The Reservoir, that is in a premiere right now. Started out in Denver, then it was at the Alliance. Now it's at the Geffen. I think it closes this coming week. It was at the Alliance, yes. And it was fantastic earlier this year.
Okay.
It is a fantastic play about him getting sober as his grandparents are getting dementia. And it's funny and heartfelt and so unique and off the wall. It's all the things we talked about. It's like, it's so uniquely him, but was hitting all of us in the audience. And that is just an example of there are many. I feel that there is a really hungry crop of talent that is bristling to come. And Jake is definitely one of those people.
I love that. So listeners, please check out Jake.
Jake Brash. And Jake, you owe me if you hear this.
That's fantastic. Okay, so let's talk about another happy ending. Okay, so
yes.
I'm thrilled it's getting a reunion at 54 Below. That is going to be July 27th. Doors open at 5:30. Show starts at 7. Get your tickets. I'll make sure all that is in this podcast so you know where to go.
Yes.
So
yes.
What inspired this return and what can audiences expect from this moment?
What inspired this return was in the last 5 years have, as we've talked about, sort of taken a journey into this nonprofit executive space. And I am still writing. I write for my, soul. So it never stops. But it's been a lot, but I just don't, I'm not pursuing my writing career in the same way that I once was. And this summer was 10 years since my work was off Broadway. And I just thought, this is a nice opportunity to return to this older version of me, just to see, turn this stone over again and just say hi to my creative side again. Honestly, give a lot of people in New York who don't know this side of me a chance to see some of my creativity. So I just knew like part of my 2025 resolutions were to do an artistic project for me. And I just, it has snowballed into this wacky little reunion concert that's going to feature, people from all sorts of iterations. The show was never the same way twice. I did it 3 or 4 times. I will be hosting the night and I will stitch together the show. So you'll get a sense of what it was. But getting a chance to work through the music again has been so rewarding and fun to sort of see who was my 24-year-old self that was, writing these numbers. And I'm really looking forward to seeing all of you. And it's meant quite a bit that all of you have made such an effort to want to do this. Like, you're flying to New York to do this. Yeah. It's very sweet.
I stay at home, but I'm mostly stationed now in Atlanta. But it gives me a great excuse to come back up there, see my agent there, and see my brother, and of course see you. And then we first worked on this in Florida. So
yes, 2013.
Had different names back then. I think what was the first
called? It Happened One Midsummer Night, I think is what is how we started it. This all started because I was working on a totally different musical that got that somebody else did their own version of independently at Signature Theater in Arlington. And our dear original producer, Bob Eckert, who is the reason that we know each other. He's the reason for all this. Our wonderful, wonderful Bob.
Miss you, Bob.
Yes, you are in our hearts always. And he said to me, let's do a comedy. Like, you've been working on this big serious show. Like, why don't we spend the summer writing a comedy? And sort of he and I together came up with this idea of just mixing all the comedies of Shakespeare together and seeing what we could get. And the fact that, and see how stupid we could make this smart thing.
Right.
Because you didn't need to know Shakespeare to ever understand any of the show. It was just a jumping off point. And so after that, we spent maybe 6 months working on that first iteration of it, that first summer. And then we decided we liked it. I'm sorry. For about through that first summer, I wrote maybe 5 or 6 songs and decided we liked it. And then we did it in November, I think that year or something like that.
Right.
We staged the whole thing.
Yeah.
And then I did it the following year up in Binghamton, and then I did it off Broadway under a different name in 2015, July of 2015.
I will say, because it's about melodies and the storyline, and I have to say that those are some of my favorite memories as an artist, were working with you and basically being part of the creating process of these characters, like what they were going to be like, what they're going to sound like, and getting to sing that music before anyone else, like, and it's seeing like the pieces of all of our souls that were workshopping that into your work. And I think that was so magical to have. I mean, I still to this day will find myself humming some of the Fools music, like just random, because it was so embedded in what we were doing that summer. It was a magical time. And I always tell the story, but that day, I think was it the day or the day before the workshop, when we were first workshopping it, when you walked in with Into the Night, the music?
Yeah, it was the day before our first presentation, because we decided we were going to do it without the first act finale. We were going to do the presentation without it, and then decided, no, we needed it.
Yeah.
Like 48 hours, we were like, no, we actually have to.
Yeah.
I wrote it overnight and brought it in. And
what fun. I think you're still writing it, aren't you?
Yes, right. Because we didn't end up using it in a subsequent version because the plot changed. But I feel like when the plot changed, it sort of, it lost. We're really restoring the original version. Yeah. People come to see it at the end of the month.
Because that was honestly such a beautiful moment. It's a beautiful song, and the emotion in it was so great too. So.
You can feel it totally, and you feel the youngness of it. And that's what I'm learning how to just try to embrace, just like the vulnerability of what it meant to be young. And like the original show is just about young people trying to fall in love.
Yeah.
And that was enough. And I think in the initial subsequent versions, my young writer brain felt that wasn't enough, and that it needed to be smarter or cleverer, or there needed to be more. And we took it in two different directions and never quite found it. So it's nice to go back to the original.
I think it's beautiful that you're bringing it back, especially the beginning versions of it, so people can have a part of that magic in New York, because a lot of it was just down in Florida or upstate. So I think that it's beautiful and brilliant that you're doing it. I'm so happy to be a part of it. I think I mentioned I'm being a part of it.
You're the lead. You're the fool.
I'm returning as the fool. It was a beautiful time, and like I said, it's one of my memories of anything. And because of that show, I know you. And I think that's one of the reasons the arts are so important to me, is the connections we make to audiences. There's people I would never have known if it had not been for the arts, and my life continuously gets better and better because of those people. And you were one of those people. So thank you so much. I had to say, entrusting me with the beginning of that role, the beginning of that show, as well as our friends. And I'm very happy other people get to hear it.
It means a lot to me too, Josh. I love you so much. And, that's what the show is about.
I know.
My niece is 5 years old, and she is in her first show her first speaking role ever. It's a Moana Junior. And her, like, being in the family of the show, like being in the show with the show people backstage, I'm just watching her fall in love with just the family that theater makes. And it's that's why I love it. I'm so blessed to have an opportunity to be making a debut as a co-producer on the Kiss of the Spider Woman film. And film was so cool. It was really, really cool. But as cool as every day was, my heart was like, theater is just where it is at. Like nothing can capture that specialness of the family that comes together to make a piece of art, and then to give it away, not just to make a piece of art for themselves in the woods or whatever, but to make something that we are giving away together. It is just one of the most spiritual things you can do. That's why we're all crazy and poor and happy.
Yes. That's exactly it. No, I was gonna say that's what I've always said. A lot of my, the story, and listeners will know the story from the podcast, but my trajectory changed when my late mother moved in with us in New York, because most of the work in theater was touring. It was regional work. And it became very clear that I could no longer do those things as her caregiver, because she would have 4 to 5 doctor's appointments a week. So I had to go to my agent at the time and say, I can't go on a cruise ship and sing. I can't go do Oklahoma and the middle of nowhere. And I love doing those things. It's because that live audience, there's nothing like feeling the energy and as an empath or even as an artist in general, because it's live. It's always different. It's always something that you're immediately receiving emotion back from someone. But during that time period, it kind of forced me into the on-camera world, and I fell in love with that too. It's just a very different medium, and the money's better too. But when I work,
they have to pay you because you can't get the joy. Like there's so much joy in theater they get away with trying to.
Yeah, but and that actually leads perfectly into this next question. So, from New York to Kiss of the Spider-Woman, you're now producing across both stage and screen. So, what excites you about storytelling in film versus theater right now?
So I'm really new to the film world, just to say it. And even just learning how the rhythms of it works is really new, which is exciting. I'm like a sponge just trying to soak it all up. What was amazing about Kiss of the Spider-Woman as a film was that it was a very theatrical film deliberately. Bill Condon had, a vision for this film that kept its theatrical roots. He had a lot of big wide shots where you're seeing the dancing happening in camera. This was not a CGI heavy movie, which was really cool to be a part of that process. And I think if I continue to make any more films, I think that would be important to me. I feel like, I'd like to make an animated movie now, you have to run a tech department, and that, like, I'm not a technical person like that. So it's getting to watch Bill work with these amazing actors to get these great performances out of these amazing scenes like that there was a lot of crossover into theater, but also learning how, when you get the opportunity to be on set, you're watching the takes and you're watching it live in front of you, and you have this little monitor and you're watching it on the monitor and you're trying to imagine how are the pieces of this puzzle going to look together. There is a lot that I felt of visual imagination required in film, which was exciting, and also gave me a deeper appreciation for the great filmmakers and their ability to be able to be experiencing this thing now, but to see it in the timeline of the stuff that they were doing before and after. I mean, this is the 50th anniversary of Jaws, and I just watched the National Geographic documentary about Steven Spielberg, and he is somebody who just but he's going totally on instincts, and it's incredible, to see it. But so I'm intrigued by the skill set required in film.
Right.
I like the reach of film. It's a much wider reach. My whole world is theater, which is wonderful, but that's a small world.
Yeah.
And it just really, there is a limit in the reach of that world. Whereas in film, the reach is so much bigger. That's extremely exciting to me as an artist who cares about impact and having impact. So
I love that. I love that, because it's the joy of the theater and the live audience. The emotion is always going to be here. You can always return to that. But like you said, for the masses to have the ability to be touched and see these stories, the medium of on screen is so much larger to push out to people to see. And I think that's one reason too. Like, I always joke about this, but whenever I would tell people in the past that I was an actor, and this is not a brag at all. I think at this point I'd been in 70 professional theater shows across the country, and they'd be like, "Oh, what have I seen you in?" And I'm like, "Well, did you see Oklahoma in the middle of Macon, Missouri?" It wasn't until I was on television or in a film that people were like, "Oh, okay, this is what you do." It was always this "So what do you do for a living?" Because obviously this isn't it. And as artists, that's a very common question we get. So at this point, I just try to approach it with, well, this and this, but my heart is always on the stage. That's usually what I say, because it is. And it's a brilliant thing when a filmmaker can capture at least a portion of that magic that you see on a stage onto the screen. And you could see that with a good filmmaker. And I'm assuming that's the same with Kiss of a Spider-Woman, because you mentioned blowing up and all that. So, I mean, it's like you're getting just a glimpse of that joy from the theater. And if you can even get a portion of that, then someone's doing a very good job at directing, into producing, into creating, so that people have that joy.
Bill Condon is a master. Yeah. Getting to watch the master work was insanely cool. And I cannot wait for you to get to see it. It's in wide release October 10th.
Awesome. That's what's fast. October 10th.
Go to your local AMC.
I love it. And I will say, I have to say this. I saw J-Lo in Las Vegas, and that was one of the best residencies I've ever seen.
Steve was incredible too.
I've always loved her, and so I cannot wait to see her in this role. And again, you said October 10th, right?
Yes.
October 6th. So what's next? What are your dream projects? Is there anything you're mad? And also, how can we support you as an artist?
I am manifesting some things. One thing that I'm not manifesting, but it just happens to be happening, is this incredible production of Ragtime that is coming to Lincoln Center this fall.
Nice.
It's the same production that was at Encores last year under the direction of Lear de Bessenet, who's now the head of Lincoln Center and is an incredible director and an incredible arts leader. I'm so excited for what is in store for Lincoln Center. It is a new era. It's the dawn of something truly new, and she is a force of nature. So I'm very excited for Lear's tenure over there, and specifically for Ragtime this fall. You definitely, if you get a chance to come see it, it's one of the great American musicals. It's one of the greatest musicals ever written, but it's certainly, as we're heading into our sesquicentennial, the 250th anniversary of our dear nation, and with everything that's going on, it is the balm for the soul, this musical. Like, if you want to feel good about being an American, like what being an American patriot used to feel like, come see this show, because it is the hard parts of being an American, but also the best parts. It's incredible.
I love that. You really can go back to before. It's your right time. Before. Gosh, I love that musical. That's fantastic. So wrapping up, first off, thank you so much, Santino, for joining me as my very first guest on Noble Voices. I couldn't think of anyone better that'd want to be with me this first episode with a guest. I will always want to end, I think, my podcast with a question. It may change, but my question for you today is, if you could whisper one truth into the ear of every emerging artist out there, what would it be?
Play the cards that God hands you. Pay attention to the cards you are given and play them. And I think a lot of people get in their head about what they want, about how they see themselves, about who they are, and don't notice the cards in their hand and don't know how to play the hand. Well, and not to make a metaphor about everything just being a game, but there's a quality to your career, certainly, that is a game. And but also, for anybody who's just interested in wanting to find their own path, being on their life path, pay attention to the signs the universe gives you, pay attention to the cards you are given, and don't hold them in your hand, play them. And I think if you do that, I don't know where you will land, but you will probably be happy. At least that's what's happened for me. So.
I love that. I love that for you too. And it's true. It's knowing what gifts you already bring to the table is very important, and knowing what you bring as a person, not just as an artist. Lean into those things. That's basically what you're saying. And I think that's, and you'll find your lane, I think we're both in different positions than we thought we would have been 10 years ago. It was like 12 years ago, whenever we did the first one. But I think it's also a beautiful place that we've ended up. And I'm excited to see what's next.
I feel I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. And I think that is a good place to start every day, when what you want is to make an impact and to help other people, and to just, I don't know, be able to walk through your life and say, I had enjoyed it. We're so lucky. So many people are abjectly suffering with no options.
Right.
Unsuffer. We have choices. And so, it's really powerful. We're really powerful because of that. And I'm grateful for friends who keep me honest, like you, and who keep me supported and loved. It's just all we have on this little rock together are our relationships that we have with one another. And, that's a secret app. That's what they say. You read all these studies that Harvard does with hundreds of old people that are asking, what is the secret to happiness? It's other people. It's not being alone. It's loving. It's giving away yourself to others. So
I love it. It's empathy. It's love. It's following your heart. And
it's love, it's valor, it's compassion.
Yeah, it's all the good stuff.
It is.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, those in between, July 27th. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Sunday,
July 27th. New York City, 54 below.
Get your tickets. There'll be links everywhere around this podcast where it's posted, which will be all over. Santino DeAngelo, thank you so much for joining me here on Noble Voices. I appreciate you, and I'm so thrilled others get to experience your artistry and your talent.
I am so thankful that you asked me, and I'm happy to be here, and I look forward to seeing you in person very soon, my friend.
Until next time, keep speaking with courage, living with purpose, and listening for the noble voices around you.